Hello, my loves. Thank you for joining me, Cassandra McAllen, for today's Mind Body Monday. Today, I'm going to be talking about the differences between what we see or believe to be reality or truth and the perception that we have about it. So, reality simply is. It is what it is. And I often say this, even just under my breath, when I am feeling personally challenged by a belief that something is not as I wish it to be. This is a powerful phrase. It is what it is. Because it reminds us that we cannot wish a circumstance different by refusing to allow its existence. We often change an experience in our internal narrative of it by applying our own emotional charge or belief system to that experience. And this is how we form our perceptions. So I'll describe this in a different way. Reality has no emotional component inherent in its description. It is not good or bad, pleasant or uncomfortable, unless we make it so. In and of itself, it is simply an experience or an awareness. However, we as human beings apply emotions or perspectives to something in order to decide if it's something we want or don't. And in doing that, we also make it into something that should or should not have happened. When we attribute an emotion or a feeling to an experience, we give it power over us and how we feel. If something is internalized as a bad thing, then that experience now has an opportunity to be implanted into our personal narrative as bad. Then our minds immediately decide that it should not have happened. And then we feel sadness, regret, or shame that the thing did happen, and then we suffer. Now, this is because it now becomes a part of our internal narrative about what is right or wrong and what we should think or do about something. Let me give you a simple example of our perception applying emotion to reality and the ways in which it can unknowingly and often unpleasantly affect our experiences. So let's imagine that it's raining. Now, if you have nothing to do or nothing you believe is positively or negatively affected by the rain, it stays as reality and it doesn't affect your personal experience in any way. However, if you've just planted a garden and let's say need to water it, then the rain is a blessing. It's a joy that you don't have to spend money or time on watering it yourself, and you're happy it's raining. Your perception of the rain is positive and pleasurable. However, let's say instead it's your wedding day, or the day of something you wanted to do out of doors and can't because of the rain. Now your perception is negative. The rain is keeping you from pleasure and is making your day difficult or even impossible. Depending on the intensity of your desire, you could even move from mere frustration to suffering. So why does this matter? Well, each time that we apply our own perspective or perception on an essentially neutral experience, we risk shifting our energy to one of victimhood. When we're in a state of victimhood, we cannot manifest what we desire. Instead, we are more likely to manifest more feelings of victimhood. So why does it work this way? Well, there's a law of the universe talked about by many philosophers, spiritualists, and even some physicists that says, the essence of that which is like unto itself is drawn. Another way of saying this that seems to be more common is, we attract to us that which we are, or simply, like attracts like. Now, whether or not you believe in energy or vibration or the law of attraction makes no difference at this moment. I simply want you to allow for the possibility that your personal perception creates your beliefs. Now, during this time, right now, of highly polarized belief systems, it's been easy to notice that there are some rational, thoughtful, loving, and considerate people to be found on both sides of some extreme arguments. How is this possible? How can my sweet and smart Aunt Agnes think blah, 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 when it's so contrary to what I know to be true, what my beliefs are? Well, each of us can be seeing or hearing about the same set of circumstances, but this information can be received by us by a completely different perceptual awareness system. By the time we've formed our own opinions about something, the truth or reality has now become our truth or perception. And because we're such incredible, amazing individuals, we have very different perceptions about many things. I may think something is bad, you may think something is good. Those are our personal perceptions of the same thing. The truth is that something we disagree on simply is what it is. That's the reality. So why is this an important distinction? Well, on the obvious front, it may help you understand why people think so differently than you. Their perceptions of reality are based on everything that they have known to be truth. And we could not possibly conceive of every life experience that someone has gone through that has shaped them to be what they are. Their very genes themselves do shaping of their psychological makeup based on factors like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. In fact, these are considered the 5 big traits, using the acronym of OCEAN, that are affected by our genetic makeup prior to even being born. Well, then we have our learned environment, our upbringing. And that changes so dramatically from decade to decade that there are just generational differences. We're affected by our country, our culture, our environment, our ethnicity, our socioeconomic status, our religious beliefs, the mental, emotional, and physical health of our parents and how that affected us, and so on and on and on. So when you think to yourself about how 2 people could read the same information or see the same thing and think completely differently about it, this is how. They're not seeing the reality. They're receiving their perception, just as you are. So what can you do with this knowledge? Well, you could choose to let this awareness lead you to be more compassionate when you're faced with people who disagree with you. You might even let it help you seek to understand more than be understood in an argument. I always find it personally fascinating to see why someone thinks the way they do about things, why they personally think some things are good or bad. Perhaps you might even be surprised to realize that often we don't even immediately know why we think what we think or believe what we believe. Whether or not someone understands where their beliefs originate, it might help you to know that to them, they're not wrong, even if we perceive them to be. Sometimes we all just feel something's rightness or wrongness without even knowing why. And this is a personal distinction of the direction that our thoughts are going for our health and well-being, rather than a reason to judge another person for their personal belief systems. The other way that applying a positive or negative emotion to an essentially neutral experience can affect us is that it can have the tendency to attract other similar emotions that then can become belief systems, that then can affect our health and overall well-being. As an example, perhaps you, like I, have had some things happen to you in your life that you decided to perceive as negative. I'll leave the argument for whether or not it was for a different discussion. Instead, I just want you to imagine that you believe that negative things have happened to you and that there is a commonality to them. If you saw last week's live, then you know that we would call this a house that you've put them in, or that they live in. Your perception of the next experience you have that feels similar could not help but be affected by your belief systems. And most likely, that would be in a way that would be seen as negative. In other words, what you expect is what you get. And expectations have a huge effect on experiences. They can't help but. We, in fact, look for what we believe we're going to find. And if you don't believe me, Google it. So, in sum, when you decide something is bad, rather than letting it be just is what it is, you are opening yourself to attaching it to other beliefs of bad things and having that affect your feelings about yourself and others in a negative way. This can then affect your belief systems in a way that gets you to expect more of what you truly don't want. So, I'm going to invite you to play a game. I would like you to spend 12 to 24 hours refusing to add your personal perception to anything you experience through any of your senses. If someone asks for your opinion, you could just repeat what you witnessed or heard without applying any personal comment. And after you're done, I would like to know if you found that you were happier because you allowed reality to be what it is without applying your personal perception to it. So please make sure you come back and comment about what you found for yourself. Was it harder or easier than you expected? How long did you do it for? I know personally that I would love to hear about it, and I know others would love to share in your discoveries. And I would also like to ask that you, if you are a current or former member of my Feminine Freedom from Pain program, and you are watching this, that you please comment on what you've learned so far about how your perception versus reality for you through your experiences in the program has affected how you feel and how that has helped you. Okay, I will go to the comments, and if anybody has any questions, I would love to see them. Emily wrote, "What if I believe that my ex-husband is a jerk? That is my perception, and I don't see that changing. I know that's not his perception, but he's wrong. LOL. My next question is, how should I look at this unchanging perception? Will this affect my expectation of him, others, or myself?" Okay, so let's break it up. You believe your ex-husband is a jerk. It's your perception, and you don't see that changing. Okay. So let's talk first about how that could affect you. If you believe someone that you were in a relationship with, that you loved enough to marry, is now someone that you don't like, well, and you think is a jerk, is a bad person, I assume, the first effect of that is for you to doubt your own ability to make good decisions, right? If you made a choice to marry somebody and to love somebody that you now think is a bad person, well, the first thing that would happen is you would think to yourself, I must not make good decisions. So that's a way in which your perception affects how you now feel about yourself. So your question, how should I look at this unchanging perception? Will this affect my expectations of him, others, and myself? So, yes, the next step is that it affects now, perhaps, You would know better than I. Your feelings on men in general. Maybe there was a particular aspect of his personality type that really makes you see him a jerk. And now, since you are so aroused emotionally by that, you might now see that in more men. For instance, let's say your husband was a spendthrift. You may now wonder if all men don't know how to manage money. If you think your husband was a cheater, well, now you might think that men are cheaters. And if perhaps you've had somebody take money from you in the past or cheat on you in the past, well, now it becomes an issue about you making bad decisions for yourself. And now you start to think worse about yourself, or perhaps you now begin to think worse about men. I have had many women in my life and in my practice, and many men as well, have some pretty strong belief systems that they have created about an entire gender of the population based on their personalized perceptions of how those relationships affected them. All women are gold diggers. All men are cheaters. I mean, we could go on and on. So when we make a perception of an experience that we could see different, we could see it as an opportunity for growth and change. We could see this as a way for us to challenge our perceptions of other things. We could see it as a reason to help us shift from one relationship into another, or from one personal experience into a different one. So we could choose to see it as something positive rather than something negative. Or we could choose to just see it as an experience and not apply an emotional charge. So I hope that answered your question, maybe even more than you asked. Laura said, is there a way to release some perceptions we may have? Yes. There are many different ways. And it really kind of depends on how you hold these perceptions, how long you've held these perceptions for, how many different belief systems that you've placed upon these different circumstances, and how long they've been there for, right? If it's a new thing, well, it's much easier to release than if it's something that you believe has happened to you time and time again. So I highly recommend that you contact me for free. And I'll put a link in the comment, and you can book with me and we can chat. And I can see if I can help you have a breakthrough on the call. Karma said, what if you have a good perception of someone, but everyone else tries to tell you that they are no good? Well, it kind of goes back to, again, our belief systems about how all of everything that we are makes us see something or someone in a certain way, and all of everything that someone else is makes them see someone or something in a different way. So you have to, of course, realize that the other people that are giving you opinions on someone have their own stake in the game as it comes to wanting to validate their own belief systems, right? Let's say we use this example of men being cheaters, since you're a woman. If you're talking to a girlfriend who has been cheated on a number of times, she may perceive a behavior in a person that you're dating as being a sign that they would do it too, and want, because they love you, to convince you that this is a no good person, right? That they might do this bad thing. So everyone's perception, again, is going to be different, which is why we have to look at the reality of something. Now, the flip side of this that you've kind of mentioned into is, what if you have a good perception of someone else and everyone else has a bad perception? Well, is your perception any more true than their bad perception? You might want to ask yourself why you're feeling the way you are. What is it about this individual that is triggering you to feel good about something that perhaps is keeping you from seeing something that, based on just its truth or reality, maybe not good for you. Maybe it's great for them. So I don't know if that helps answer that question. Janice said, very helpful. Thank you, Cass. You are welcome. I love you all so very much, and it means so much to me when you show up. And if you would, when you show up too, even if you don't comment, give me a thumbs up or a heart. That helps keep me in the, I don't know what, logarithms of Facebook, and helps more people see these videos. And it helps me sharing them with you on these Mondays. If you have any questions, continue to put them there. I will check back. And as I mentioned before, if you're a lady in one of my programs, please let me know what you found through the program that has helped you with the perception versus reality, and perhaps how it has let you release some perceptions that were unhealthy or unhelpful, and enable to find a reality that has been more healing. Okay. I love you all, and until I see you or talk to you again, take care of yourself for me.